Peace, y'all. So I know it's been a minute since I posted a video, but I'm back for the moment. Today I decided to record a video on shadow work and what shadow work is and how do you know when you're doing it. Yeah, all that jazz. So I hope you guys have been good during this pandemic, and I pray that you all still be safe, secured, and protected spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. Let's get started on this video. Because of circumstances in my life, I have to succumb to doing videos on my phone. But gotta work with what you got, like the Lord says. So, what is shadow work? And if you guys see me looking over here, it's because I got notes and I legit wrote this shit back in July. So what is shadow work? Shadow work is when you are dealing with the dark sides of yourself that you may hide from society. So your shadow side is pretty much when you are your authentic, unconscious self. We all have versions of ourselves that we may not even show to society. So we have like three versions of our. So the first version is the one who we show up as to the world. The second one is who we show up as to our family or our close friends. And the third one is who we are behind closed doors. So that pretty much means like, who are you? Who are you behind closed doors? Who are you in your bedroom? What I've learned throughout my spiritual journey, working through my shadow work, is that I acknowledged the fact that I started to notice my shadow work was more so becoming inner child work, where your inner child is pretty much the parts of you, the stages of you where you experience any kind of trauma. So if you really think about it, when we're dealing with shadow, you're dealing with parts of yourself that you never want to acknowledge, which if we really look at ourselves, we never really acknowledge the trauma we experience. Like I said, your shadow self is your authentic self. Your shadow self, your inner child, is your authentic self as well. Your inner child was you before you knew who you were, before society told you who you were. The first versions of us are masks that we put in front of others to hide our true selves. When I say that's your conscious self, the person that you showing up as to others and how you communicate to others. So we have layers to the mask that we wear, and so many do not realize the mask. Many of us never really realize the mask that we put in front of people or certain people we are around or family. You will start to realize that shadow work is the truth. Shadow work is connected more to spirit because it deals with light and dark. It's not always about being in the light. Being in the light is always about being in the darkness and owning up to your truth. Owning up to the truth. Letting go of the mask. Living and stop living in a lie. And telling ourselves these lies that we tell ourselves. Instead, we need to tell the truth. And shadow is nothing but truth. Because shadow is spirit. If you really think about it, spirit is about truth. Spirit is nothing about lies, deceit, the mask, none of that. It's once you in the forefront, in front of spirit, the mask has to fall. And your shadow has to come in the forefront, because your shadow is your unconscious self. Like I said, your shadow is your authentic self. Spirit is most connected to shadow. Conscious self can also be your inner child or inner children, because we can also have multiple parts of ourselves from our childhood or our teenage years or our early adulthood where we experience trauma at a certain part of our life. For me, for example, when I was working through my shadow work, I realized that I had 3 children. I had the 8-year-old me, the 16-year-old me, and the 21-year-old me. Those three have really shown me parts of myself that I tried to hide from. And when it came to trauma, trauma can cause you to bury certain aspects of your authentic self. It can also make you cause you to bury even the good parts of yourself and even the not so good parts of yourself. So, like I said, shadow is not bad, because when you really look at it, shadow has always been there with you. Shadow never left you. Shadow has always been there since the day you were born. But because of society, religious belief systems were telling us to be afraid, to be ashamed of these things, just like how they tell us to be ashamed of having sex before marriage, or be ashamed of being sexual. Something in our childhood happened to us to where it altered us into thinking that this side of us is not okay, that this part of me, this aspect of myself is not okay. Or for instance, another example that's not trigger warning. Another example is like if you drew as a child, you know you like to draw, you dance, you love to dress up, you love to just go out in nature, you love to do, childhood things. And you have an adult in your life that never influenced that never gave you the drive or the courage or the encouragement to continue those things that you love. Or for instance, like you had parents or guardians that downplayed your talents, downplayed your gifts, saying that you weren't amount to nothing with drawing, or you'll never get a job with drawing, you'll never get a job in dancing, and you know you love dancing, but because that person who is supposed to be that you look up to, right? Because you're a child, you think that adults know everything at a child state. You think adults know everything, but really, as you get older and you start become aware of yourself internally, you realize the adults around you were nothing but big kids. You know what I'm saying? Once you begin to do the shadow work, you will start to notice that even your parents were nothing but big children. They didn't know any better. They weren't raised to know how to love, to know how to encourage, especially in the Black community. Some of us grew up with parents that couldn't guide us. They didn't know how to guide us. So then we grow up not knowing how to do anything for ourselves internally, because we weren't taught how to deal with our emotions. We were only taught we were ashamed of having emotions. We were ashamed of being a sensitive child. We were ashamed of being that gifted child. Once you realize that even your parents had trauma, you start to realize the trauma that they put upon you wasn't your fault, but it's your responsibility to heal that side of you, to heal that part of you. If our authentic selves were never reassured as children, or we never got praises as a child, we will grow up not knowing how to be there for ourselves. We grew up not knowing how to love ourselves on a daily basis, or how to encourage ourselves on a daily basis. So it can cause a lot of people to still hold on to what people told us we were, so we would be that. It's like when somebody tell you who you are and you believe that, and you start to walk like that ain't nothing but a mask that you put on because of what somebody else said you were. So, how to do shadow work? It's really not that hard, because some of us, I'm gonna speak for myself, I really didn't have a choice. I really didn't even know I was doing shadow work when I first began my spiritual journey. I didn't even know what shadow work was. All I knew was I was facing parts of myself that did not accept what I was doing in my mask. My authentic self did not accept me ignoring it. My shadow self, my inner child, my inner children did not like the fact that I was not paying attention to the hurt within myself. So when it got to the point where I questioned the many things, the many ways that I thought it in the past, and started to be more aware of the hurt and trauma that I experienced, that's when you'll know. Once you can even ask yourself these questions. You can also even do like a inner child or shadow work journal if you feel like you more so need to write it. If you feel like you need to be in front of the mirror and speak to yourself and talk to yourself and on a constant daily basis, you can do that as well. I've seen on occult pages or from other spiritual practitioners say that you can do like shadow work in a dark mirror. Like you can get like a mirror and paint it black and do it that way. It's however you feel like you can get closer to healing your shadow self. Your shadow self can be about the trauma, it can be about your inner child, but your shadow self can also be the demons that you do not want to face. And your demons are not even your demons are not bad. Your demons are here to teach you a lesson, to teach you the lessons, to teach you about yourself. Your demons can be your best friends. A lot of people do not want to face their demons because it would have them facing themselves. It would have them in a vulnerable state where they have to admit their wrongdoings to people. And like anything in life is duality. It's not about love and light. Feminine, and also shadow work is dealing with your feminine self, y'all. Come through, spirit. Thank you. Your inner work, your shadow work is dealing with the feminine side of you, because feminine is darkness. Feminine is shadow. Feminine is dealing with the parts of you that are emotional, that are vulnerable, that is truth. Because masculine is more so outwardly, it's more so doing the work, it's more so showing that you're doing the work, it's more so putting the action to it, whereas feminine is more so inner, receiving, receptive, intuitive. Many of us out here, we're not facing ourselves, we're not facing the truth of ourselves, and we're afraid of that truth. We can't sit here and say that, oh, I don't want to face my demons, I don't want to face my skeletons. You're going to have to face them sooner or later in your life, because they're going to come knocking on your door. When that door gets full of you not facing yourself, you ain't going to have no choice. You won't have no choice in the matter. Spirit will find a way to break you in order for you to face that. And I know from experience, when dealing with shadow work, you are going inward. You're interacting with your shadow self, your children, your child, your demons, whatever. You can do this almost every day. If you feel like you can work through the discomfort of facing yourself, facing the truth, facing the things that you've done to yourself, facing the betrayal you've done to others or to yourself, just facing all the truths of yourself in every aspect, even the truths about your family, even the trauma that you have gotten from your family, or the trauma that has been brought down in your family lineage. Once you face those things and you are aware and heal those parts of you, you no longer need to hold on to those things, but you also cannot go back to putting that mask on. That's one thing. Once you connect with your shadow self, the layers of mask that you have hidden from people outside of you will start to crumble, and your authentic self will show up more. And a lot of people will not like that, because at the end of the day, people outside of you are nothing but reflections of you. They are only showing you parts of yourself that you ignore. So say that you get annoyed by something that your boyfriend does and you brought it up to him, and then he points out to you that you do the same thing. Yeah, because what he pointed out to you is nothing but a reflection back to you. What you point out that others do is nothing but a reflection. Many of us do not realize that you cannot go back to the same old bullshit. Once you break down the mask and be connected to spirit and your shadow self, your inner self, you cannot go back to the things that you used to think, that you used to do, because now you have leveled up to somewhere that people will not understand because they're not doing the work. And also because of religious beliefs that we grew up in, like Baptist or Christianity, they made us feel like our shadow selves, our demons, our sexuality, which is feminine, is wrong, is something we should be ashamed of, when it's perfectly normal, because it's a part of spirituality. It's a whole. Spirituality is a spectrum, and many do not realize that we all have angels and we all have demons within us. The demon, like I said, can teach us and acknowledge the darkness in ourselves. Once we unlearn and unpack the thoughts, the patterns, the emotions, the trauma, we are being honest with ourselves. We are acknowledging ourselves, because nobody in your life acknowledged you. You may have people outside of you that weren't family that acknowledged you, but some of us had people in our life that never acknowledged us. We were neglected emotionally or physically. Whatever the trauma was. Shadow work and trauma in your adult life can affect all aspects of your life. Trauma affects your love, how your attachment styles are in your adult life. Trauma can really affect you mentally, how you think about yourself, how you think of others. Trauma can also affect you emotionally, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about others. Trauma can even affect you spiritually if you are not aware of it. So when I started to realize how much shadow work really helped me, it was when I really acknowledged my own mother's trauma that was embedded in me, in my womb space. And you'll know when you're doing shadow work, is because you'll feel it in your womb space. You'll feel it in your womb space. You'll feel it in your heart. You'll feel the emptiness when you're crying it out, and you feel the love coming back in for self. It's a very dirty, just ugly process, but it's worth it. It's worth you getting to know yourself more. It's worth it to know your worth of yourself. It's worth unpacking and unlearning and relearning yourself. So yeah, guys, that is all that I have. I will also put a link in my description box to another video that I feel like will be more helpful as well, by the Queen Poe. She did a video and it's more detailed, and she also talked about the psychological point of view of shadow work as well. So if you guys want to watch that too, I'll make sure to put that in the description box. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know if this video helped you. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll also put my email in the description box. And this is Brianka Hill, aka Unicorn Flower, signing out. Peace, y'all.